Hi, Sydney here from sydneyreadseverything.com. I just finished filming an intro that explained what my blog project is, but in brief, I read every major work in the English canon. So this is a frequently asked questions video. The first question I get almost every time when someone finds out about my blog is, where do you get your list? I make it. There's no official list of works that are in the English canon, and there shouldn't be. Anyway, there's no official list of works in the English canon, and there really shouldn't be. So I make the list myself. I initially started using Norton Anthologies, their texts that they included and their descriptions of what else that was too long to include in an anthology but was significant in a given era of literature. So as I continued completing this project, reading books in chronological order, I found myself adding more and more texts to the list that I hadn't intended on reading. For example, I had already read, Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility and by Jane Austen, of course, but I had not read Emma, so I put Emma on the list. And then I figured, she's written 6 books, and I can just put Persuasion and Mansfield Park on there and whatever one I'm forgetting, which I'm sure is great, but I can't remember it right now. Just add those to the list too and read them as well. So I also wasn't initially rereading books that I'd already read, but then it started to seem really silly to have a blog about classic literature where I write about obscure Jane Austen books and then I don't write about Pride and Prejudice. So I started rereading texts that I'd already read. Now I don't really use Norton Anthologies anymore, but Wikipedia has posts for each year in art, but broken down by medium. So you can look at 1851 in literature, 1851 in music, 1851 in art, and see the major works that were published or completed during that year. And I look through those and I see what works sound intriguing to me and I add them to the list. So, for example, The Morgesons by Elizabeth Stoddard. I looked at the description of that book. It sounded interesting. It's an obscure book that no one's gonna look at my book list and say, Sydney, it's incomplete. You didn't read The Morgesons by Elizabeth Stoddard, because most people have not read it or heard of it. But when I read the description, following the link from 18 whatever on Wikipedia, it sounded intriguing to me, so I added it. And once I started reading it, I really liked it. So I finished it and I will post about it pretty soon. So, however, there's some texts that I'll read the description on Wikipedia, they'll sound really intriguing, and then I'll pick up the book and start reading it, and they're not that great, and they're also really obscure. So every once in a while I put an obscure work on the list and then I take it off. So yeah, that's how I get my list, and it's constantly in a state of flux. I add things to it, take it off. I add things far more frequently than I take them off. But yeah, that's how I get my list. I guess the next question that I get is, do you really read all of those books? And the answer is yes. I do. I love reading. I'm addicted to it. I read every day. And I love to read, and it's no hardship to me to read these texts. Every once in a while, if a book is particularly long and dense and boring, I will listen to a few chapters here and there on an audiobook while I'm driving or washing dishes or whatever it might be. But I don't do that too often. Mostly I just read them, and that leads to the next question I get, which is, do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy reading all these texts? I've had very close friends of mine say, oh, I feel bad for you because you don't get to read like cool contemporary books that are coming out now. And my answer is I will read them one day when I get to them in chronological order. And also, you know, I feel bad for people who haven't read some of the wonderful obscure Victorian literature that I'm reading right now. I love them. I love a lot of the books that I'm reading. There's very few books on the list that I regret spending my time on. Yeah, I love the project. I get a lot of gratification out of it, and bring on the books. What else do people ask me? Oh yeah, where do I get my costumes from for the pictures? So the pictures are a really fun aspect of the blog, and at first I mostly came up with my costumes just from things I had around the house. Like for Pilgrim's Progress, I just draped a sheet around myself so that I looked sort of like a pilgrim. There are multiple pictures of me draped in sheets for blog pictures. I don't sew. I'm not good at it. I don't really know how, so I don't make any of my own costumes other than like taking a plaid skirt and putting it around myself like a shawl, and then wearing a nightgown underneath so it looks like I'm some sort of 14th century Irish maiden, but or Scottish maiden. But yeah, I do purchase, once I got into the Victorian era, I realized I was going to have to purchase some dresses because you really can't fake that tailoring, that shape. There's no draping that's going to make you look Victorian, because it was all about the shaping and the tailoring. So there are a couple of websites that I use. One is victorianchoice.com, and the other, which I use a lot, is recollections.biz, and they have reasonably priced historical garments. I typically wait until there's a sale on a garment that I've been eyeing for a while, because there's no urgency with this blog. The world will not suffer if I don't finish it within a given timeline. So yeah, that's where I get a lot of my costumes. If you have any other questions, I would love to answer them. Please post them here or on the blog itself. Come check out the website if you're not there already. And thanks for watching. Thanks for reading. Talk to you again soon. What? Okay. Did you go to Dunkin' Donuts?
Good morning.
I'm hungry.
You didn't eat anything?
No, I haven't eaten. I think I had a banana.
What reason I'm for?
Do you want to?
Sure.
Okay. I recorded that, by the way, that conversation.
Why?
I don't know, because I hit record already. I'll edit it out.